So I saw this thread on broodwar Reddit. I don't check it very often, but I saw this one. It was actually kind of interesting, and I wanted to read it and kind of talk about the idea of it. So, theory on Protoss players. I have an armchair theory about why there haven't been any super dominant Protoss players winning consecutive ASLs, etc. in a long time. Let's take out winning consecutive ASLs, because that's like not, like that's too short, but let's just talk about Protoss in general. And why, like, for instance, no Protoss Bonjwas, right? Because that's always, there's no Protoss Bonjwas. Anyways, so the best Protoss are the following with my subjective ratings in each matchup. So look, like Mini 5 out of 5 PVZ, 4.5 out of 5 PvP, 3 out of 5 PvT, right? And you can kind of see it. Best, kind of the opposite, right? Very good PvT, his PVZ and PvP not as good. And then you got Rain. Pretty good PvP. He should actually be a 10 out of 5 PvP. 3 out of 5 PvT. Pretty, like, these are not bad ratings. These are reasonable. I think you should use probably more than 5 points to figure this out. But these are reasonable ideas. Bisu, right? Yeah, this is... I would be hard-pressed to disagree with some of these ideas, these numbers, right? Snow? Yeah. Yeah, I look at these numbers. These look approximately correct. So I wouldn't disagree. Okay, so my theory is that the playstyle of Protoss in each matchup varies way more than the other race. Okay. Oh, okay. Now I think I see what he's saying, that the three matchups play very, very differently. Okay, let's take a look at what else he says. We'll just finish reading it. In PvZ, the matchup is so against Protoss that you need to do some really risky / innovative strategies to gain advantages and win. An example is Mini, by making Cybernetics core before Forge, etc. Also, the game is often determined on a knife's edge, i.e. good micro can determine the outcome of defending against a Ling bust, scouting a Hydra in, etc. Same with PvP, that's the nature of mirror matchups, except for TVT. In PvT, it's the exact opposite. Players like Snow and Best do so well because they play consistently and macro like crazy, being rock solid and rarely doing any risky strategies or plays. As a result, it's incredibly rare to have a player who's good at both playstyles, so there hasn't been a player that has had an extended run where they look dominant in all matchups, unlike Flash, Queen, etc. I see a lot of Protoss players mess up when they try to switch up their style or force their style in a matchup where it doesn't work, like Best trying to suddenly cannon rush a Zerg on a really bad map, Mini building 6 DTs against Terran we should be macroing, Bisu taking a fight against Siege Shanks that's clearly not in his favor, and trying to rely on his control to win it, etc. Thoughts? Who'll be the next most well-rounded Protoss? I think that this is like a reasonable... These are like good ideas. It was interesting enough that I did want to talk about it a little bit here and just kind of go over it. So first off, this I would disagree with, and let me, like, there's something similar to this that I think is true, but not this. The theory that Protoss playstyle in each matchup varies more than any other race. I think that's impossible, right? In TVP, you're basically contained for a huge portion of the game on the edge of death while trying to get upgrades. So you're really locked in your base. Then in TVZ, you use a completely different set of units, which is not true for Protoss. Protoss uses the same units in all the matchups, but you literally go Marine Medic and take map control against Zerg, right? And then in TVT, you kind of just siege up and like it becomes a gigantic hour-long game. So like I would say for sure that Terran has much more variety in the matchups, but I think that there's another thing here, and I've talked about it before in my casts in GSL and ASL, is that Protoss players, I think, are more stylistic a lot of the time than Terran or Zergs. Terran and Zerg kind of have a way to be played, whereas Protoss, there's like a lot of style behind it, where you choose... Like, the players are very stylistic. Like, you can really see the thumbprint of a Protoss player a lot of the time. Troll the chat. So no, I don't think that's what the sentence is saying. That's definitely not, because he's literally right afterwards trying to point out The thing is, I don't think it's a bad idea. But yeah, I think that the players themselves are more stylistic. They have very, very, very different styles. Where you do get different style players in the other races for sure. But like, there's really a road that is the best road, or close to it in Terran and Zerg. Okay, so now the comparison to these other players. Now the thing is, everyone always has a worst matchup. Okay, so. Except a few players. The very best players in the world don't have bad matchups. They're just god tier at everything. You see this from the really consistent champions on top of games like Maru or Rogue or Serral in StarCraft 1 or 2. In StarCraft 1, players that come to mind that are like, they don't have a weak matchup, that all their matchups are just top tier and you can't tell which one's better than the other one. Like Flash, Last, both of them for sure. Queen, I think. You can't really tell which matchup Queen is weaker at than the other one, right? Jaedong in his prime, Effort when he was active. There's not many. There's definitely not many. But really, yeah, no Protosses really come to mind. I would definitely agree. Like, I think Bisu and Rain are very close to that, but not quite. Yeah, I think it's yeah, Jaedong in his prime. Yeah, I would go with that. Yep, definitely. But yeah, it's I don't know why there's no Protoss like that at the moment. I think that it could occur, but there's definitely, like, you look at Bisu's PVT and it does not look as good. Now, to be fair, this season in particular, Rain looks really good PVT. If Rain's PVT is as good as his other matchups, then he'll just start winning a ton of ASL. Well, honestly, he won KSL and ASL, right? So, like, he'll probably do it anyways. But I think he's probably the closest overall to being really good in all matchups. Let's take a look at the comments, see if people agree here. Interesting idea. I'd like to point out, just saying about Sulky the other day, ZVZ can be the undoing of otherwise dominant macro Zergs. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Because everyone has a weak matchup, or unless the very best that win multiple championships. Yeah, this guy talking about it's not good status points or whatever. It's not enough ASLs. Not quite good enough against Zerg. Yeah, that's a problem with Snow for sure. Oh, here's Jaeyun saying something. Jaeyun, obviously a very high-level player with any race. These series are fine, but sometimes we sort of just have to accept that it's a very tiny pool of pro players. The more strong pros there are in a given race, the more odds they'll have at winning a championship. There's just been a lot more good Zs than Ts and Ps. Terran has been carried by Flash and Last, but really they haven't had great results outside of those two. Definitely would agree with that. Rain was your most well-rounded Protoss, but he quit. Bisu went to the army. Snow best continually underperformed. Mini was the only P who succeeded. If you look at Zergs, even despite army attempts, there have always been at least 5 Zergs who can crack round of 4 plus championship tier every single season. The results reflect that. Yeah, I would definitely agree with everything stated there. In fact, if you look at, like, the next best Terran after, like, Last is retired, but he was almost Flash level. Like, he was ridiculous, right? And his wrists fell apart and he quit. But, like, even Light, I think, is very much like these Protoss players that they're talking about, where, like, his other matchups were weaker for a long time. And he's close now. I think he's close to being the same level in all the matchups, but maybe not quite. Anyways, I thought that was kind of an interesting thread on the broodwar Reddit. So, cheers to Rutrael for thinking this up and typing it out. This is a high quality Reddit post with some interesting discussion in it. So, let me know what you guys think. Thank you.